Hello there. It's been a while, friend, but I am so glad to see you guys once more. Hello and welcome back to Clockwork Dandynoodles as we now continue to pick up where we left off. We are breaking down Moriarty the Patriot. This is episode 12 or episode 1 or season 2, depending on how you want to word it. We are looking at the first episode, A Scandal in the British Empire, Act 1. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you can keep track of all these releases. How things work around on these breakdowns is we break down the pieces which are shown to us, scenes, the food, and I tell you guys how accurate it is, give you a bit of history on it if it is, and I break down things like colour, I break down characters. So this week's video is going to start with the OP. We're going to break down the OP, break down the ED, and do at the end of the episode, I've pushed them right to the end so we don't disrupt our flow, I have 2 character breakdowns for you guys. 2 new characters, 2 new breakdowns, and I think I've got some fun stuff to say. The ED mainly as well. The ED's got some really good stuff hidden in it. There is a Discord channel for you guys as well to hang out on. You get notified whenever videos go up on the channel. That also allows you to stay in the loop, and you also get to talk to me behind the scenes so you can ask me questions. If you are new to the channel, you can find the rest of the breakdowns for the first season in the folder. Go ahead, binge them. I've gone through a lot of different historical aspects and I've given quite a few many praises, and I think I do a pretty decent job on picking out as much as I can when it comes to these videos. It's time to grab a cuppa. We are going back to Baker Street. We're finally here. And we are going to start very strong with a good old English breakfast. This time round we have some streaky bacon, some fried egg, we have beans, mushrooms and some black pudding. With a English breakfast, there's multiple elements that can appear in an English breakfast. This time round we're seeing about half of a English breakfast. We're not seeing the full thing. My favourite mainly if it comes to an English breakfast will be the streaky bacon, the mushrooms, the fried bread you can get with it as well. Sausages go on as well. And sometimes you can add a potato kind of form as well, some fried potatoes. Lots of good things that can go down on an English breakfast. We are going to go straight back into roasting Watson. It's been a while, so we have to roast Watson. And poor Watson has put on a bit of weight. If he's eating the English breakfast every day without burning half those calories off, yes, I can fully believe the poor guy has put on a bit of weight. Picking on Watson is going to run in the family. Mycroft making such an appearance, show his skills of deduction as well as he tries to work out and tell us exactly why he knows Watson has put on some weight. We're going to have the character analysis for Mycroft later. So let's break down the OP, Twisted Heart by Tasuku Haranaka. And I forgot to mention last time, the singer, yes, they are using the same singer, which is mad props because it gives the anime the same feel. It gives the OP the very similar feels that the original one had. The singer is indeed Denki. You may recognise him. My Hero Academia Season 5 is airing right now, so you can go and check that out. Boy, am I happy that we have the same singer and the same artist for the outro as well. The anime is keeping the same vibe, the same atmosphere going. I really like the fact they've kept everybody the same. Let's begin the breakdown with a blue shadow flash on William. The blue colour is a cold detached colour, showing he is in the shadows, showing he is out and isolated in this one sequence. We then dive behind a screen and into the Moriarty parlour, which is a very, very nice touch as it feels like we're walking straight into it. It feels like we, the audience, are walking into the scene. It gives a feeling of the behind closed doors. I really, really like it. On the topic of doors, we end up going through another door into the front room of Holmes, showing us a forward motion, the passage onwards, the connection between the two. Lewis essentially being the Watson to William. Both of the scenes play out with the right-hand man aiding the main guy himself. We then pull back, so we've gone forward, we're now pulling out again, we're going right back. We pull back and away from Fred and Moran. We get a very nice visual of us going down an alleyway, leaving the two in the back, but they are framed. They are framed by shadows, the shadows around them, but they are sat in the light. The two visuals are contrasted from the last 2 sequences we've had. The other characters have been within home settings. These two are outside, showing us a slight difference in perhaps the upbringing or the way that these guys are used to inhabiting. We see some visuals of some fruit rotting away, decaying, a passage of time. Fruit was a big thing in the original OP as well, so we're keeping quite a few of the themes running on, the idea of mortality, because we jump straight back into Highgate Cemetery. If you want to check out my info on Highgate, the first video of the entire Moriarty Season 1, it's all in there, so go and check that video out. Cemetery ending is the end of a journey. It's the place we're all going to end up. So this little sequence very, very cleverly showing us the passage of time and mortality. We see Mycroft and Albert. We see two different cuts of them initially, with them back to back facing opposite directions. The colour is drained in both of them, but they are both drawn in the same manner, the same colours, the same filter, showing us there's a connection between the two. The two then overlay and William appears within the shadows. We then get an overlay of Irene and Sherlock, showing us once more another connection between the two. Sherlock is in the darker, Irene is lighter colour than him, showing that perhaps that she is brighter than him in the way she is personality-wise. She's definitely brighter, and Sherlock sees her as something a lot brighter than him. The next sequence is very, very fast, but it's so clever. We see Sherlock in the blue. He punches into the audience. This transitions us to William, who is in the red, so both the character colours there. He spins his cane, doing the same kind of motion, and then drives it towards the audience. This back and forth motion makes it feel like a game. One's making a move, the other one is making a move. The kind of narrative that we get a lot with Moriarty the Patriot. Mirroring of movements, showing that the two are very similar in that respect. On a note as well, Sherlock is made to bleed by the motion that William does. And that's where we also see the red blood, the contrast of the two. Perhaps he is more like William than he thinks he is, with that red showing up in his own colour, his own frame, showing us how dangerous it is to play a game when it comes to playing with William. We go into a very colour-grained image of Albert. This sequence ends up repeating, so we end up with Fred and his knife, and he ends up attacking the audience. This transitions to Moran and his gun, but Moran is slightly different. He shoots to the side, the journey taking us to a new direction. We're going to a new direction now because he's taking us left. I believe we're going left. The bullet ends up leading us out into a frame of Lewis dodging an attack from somebody. Perhaps this is foreshadowing that Lewis is going to have some parts to play this season. Lewis is then followed by Watson. These two get compared quite a bit, so I think it's nice to have the two follow one another. And then we see Irene. Irene falls, reaching up, grasping for something. Her hands then lead us into some screenshots of previous cases. One of them, I think, was the case where Sherlock's name was written on the floor. We see a headshot of somebody. I'm not sure who this guy is yet. You guys who already know may know this person already. No spoilers. Remember how it goes. Becca is not a manga reader. She likes to take these things off the bat and rip them apart fresh. I'm not sure who this is, but I think it's going to play importance if that person has a little segment in the OP. I think it's going to come back to be important. Perhaps a new character for this season as well. We see a lineup of Moriarty's group. And then some gorgeous oil-painted scenery, which the anime is very, very well known for. A thing I gave Moriarty a lot of credit for was its cityscapes, its backdrops, how amazing the artwork always looked. The shadowscape, let's talk about the shadowscape, where we see Sherlock heading straight for William. Everything is done within the shadows, but we have a beautiful sun backlighting everything. When Sherlock reaches him, William turns around and Sherlock raises his gun and fires. This ends the journey, the end of the game. This is the final piece. This is the end of what Sherlock is looking for, and thus ends our OP. I think this one's going to have to grow on me a little bit. The Dying Wish was really, really on it for me. I love Dying Wish, but this one is good. I do believe this will end up growing on me for sure, and it's going to just take a little bit of time to get used to. Sequence itself, all the visuals are fantastic. We see a lot of repeats this time with the decaying idea of mortality, the idea that we are playing a very dangerous game and it's a interchange between Sherlock and William. The way that the other characters are starting to be lined up, showing us some of those connections that are going to be appearing, are going to be very important for this season. Really, really love it. I like the way it's done. So let's talk about a very, very cold open as Mycroft greets his brother with a bullet to the face. Fantastic. Love it. I don't think you could have had a better greeting when it comes to families on that one. Some of the details behind them, looking at the violin, finally on its stand for once. Normally with Sherlock, it ends up being tossed. I think I actually gave him a sin last time when he tossed it aside in his rage. A microscope also in shot as well. Well, we are introduced quite quickly. This is number 673, Losers for Sherlock, giving us an immediate look into the skill of Mycroft and the way that these two are together. The nickname is here, guys. All of the book readers are waiting for it. Shirley, you are not serious. I am. Do not call me Shirley. I'm going to be using that airplane quote. So Mycroft gives a warning to his beloved brother. Beware of women. This is foreshadowing, and I think he knew that Irene Adler was coming his way. The Watson screenshot for the cinnamon rolls, or the mum fans in the audience. Screenshot of Watson because it's been quite a while since we've seen him. Some information is given to us about Mycroft, that he essentially is the government. His role is so important. He is there. We know he works for the Queen. He's been summoned by Queen Victoria. That was our tease into season 2. It is a fantastic scene. It starts to show us the prickly relationship between the two. The fact that Sherlock has a bit of an inferiority complex as well, where Watson tries to talk about him, and Sherlock very, very quickly changes the topic to talk about something much more important. Watson being forced to figure out the mysterious letter. The letter having that German link. I think it's a good little sequence because it shows us Watson behind the scenes is picking up things from Sherlock, and he is using this to also be able to deduct things on his own. Really nice little touch there. Back to those gorgeous cityscapes I mentioned before, we get some very smoggy London. The moon is hidden by the clouds, therefore there are secrets afoot, the game is going on, and we are now under the cover of darkness. The connection between Albert and Mycroft is very, very quickly established this episode. Also, yes, all the Albert fans can now rejoice because you have seen him in a military uniform. This is also probably making all those book readers fangirl or fanboy. There is a link in the books. There has been quite a thing where people could not work out if Moriarty was two people. There were two brothers. At one point, he is shown to be a colonel and then a train station master, I believe. So there's two different roles given. You could probably rule out that he maybe had two different roles at some point. People like to theorise that there were two brothers. Albert is now playing the military brother, which is a great nod to the book. So very, very happy they put that in there. And it's a good chance to see uniforms of the time period as well. It looks really nice on him. We get our first introduction to Irene Adler for a conversation between Albert and Mycroft, as we also start to set up the big mystery of the documents. So right at the end of the last season, we had it teased by the Queen herself that some documents had been stolen. Queen Victoria told Mycroft, I am bestowing you on to retrieve these documents. So now we're seeing Mycroft tasking Albert with the idea of retrieving these documents and ending Irene. We get our first intro back to Team Moriarty. Irene has made no demands as of yet, and we end up cutting before we hear William's thoughts once more. But it's a nice touch base. It's been a while. It's 3 months since we last talked about these guys, and I've missed it to pieces. We get a visit from royalty to Sherlock. So we're getting the introduction of Sherlock onto Irene's case. Sherlock's literal introduction to Irene Adler. It's interesting to see that both Sherlock and Albert are on the same case, in a sense. So Sherlock less directly than Albert. Albert knows the full story. Sherlock is plunged into the case, but he's pulled in from the side by Irene herself. So we are introduced to this prince, this king. You guys can't see me air quoting our royal visit, which is Irene Adler. The way that they show this story play out with the painted backgrounds shows some visual storytelling, tying Irene to Sherlock quite quickly, getting him in on the case. And Watson, my boy, I really feel for you. I feel for you so badly. Sherlock, regardless of whoever is sitting in front of him, whether the client is royal or not, he will say it how it is. There is no filter on Sherlock. We know this. And this poor Watson having to deal with all of the aftermath, trying to apologise for how rude Sherlock is being, because pointing is very, very rude. We also start to see Sherlock's admiration, almost fascination with Irene. As he hears this case of what Irene has actually done, instead of being like, oh, that's terrible, he automatically starts to compliment her. He finds the stuff that she's done quite humorous. Sherlock is amused by Irene's antics. note as well that there was demands made on this case. In this case, even though it's fake, the prince ended up with demands. It's very different from what's happening in the big overarching plot where she hasn't made demands on those paperworks just yet. So possibility that she's working with somebody. We get some very nice English at the end, ending the conversation. This is her solidifying herself onto our stage. She has made a move to engage Sherlock to get him tied up to make sure that he will go to her. And what an introduction to the character. Breakdown will come later on her. Sherlock ponytail. I was not prepared to see him in a ponytail. I had to take a moment. It may be a little bit hot under the collar. This episode is very dangerous for my Lewis stanning, if you haven't already worked out. Or if you didn't figure from the ramblings of the first season, I am a huge Lewis fan. I love the guy to pieces. I love his aesthetic. I love most things about him, apart from his slightly stabby nature. This episode was really giving him a bit of a run for his money, as Sherlock pulling that ponytail really making him look so much like Mycroft right now. Does nobody tell him that, because he would not appreciate being told, you look like your brother. Irene has solidified herself into our characters. She is showing us her intelligence and the fact that she too is playing a game. She's able to play a game. She's one step ahead of Sherlock right now, and she has essentially one-upped him. Let us also appreciate Watson's face for a second. This face, I would love to make it my thumbnail, but I've got other pictures I want to make the thumbnail. Otherwise, this would have been the thumbnail. But this has got to be one of the best Watson faces for this episode anyway. This scene becomes lit. And it's the second time in 2 days I've made that joke for an anime. But it does. That a fire starts. Irene ends up forcing Sherlock to be indebted to her. Fantastic way of making sure that he's on her side. Shirley burns down her house. Waifu war commences in a scene that I'm not such a fan of generally, because Miss Hudson, if you want to see my issues or qualms with Miss Hudson, you can go and check that video out. I think it's video 2. But everything is going according to plan. So we end up pulling out to see that William, the Moriartys are all watching the scene play out, but these guys are aware of Irene's plans. They're aware of what she's trying to achieve, that Irene is trying to make sure that Sherlock is beside her at all times, preventing any bad repercussions for stealing those papers. Irene is using Sherlock, but he just can't figure it out. We get a very nice landmark scene now, showing us the clock tower, the famous tower with Big Ben within, and the bell, I believe, is Big Ben. The tower it's within is called the Tower. We can see Parliament behind. It's a slightly incorrect shot, because the Big Ben is actually a lot more further forward than the building behind it. They've done it to show us all the buildings, but they're just slightly in the wrong positions. It's only slight, noticeable for me. It's just a little tiny bit which is bugging me, that Big Ben should be further forward, and then you've got the building at the front which is a little bit too big and also at the wrong angle. It should just be further down. Sherlock is being played. He doesn't understand that there is no prince that actually wants him to get that photo, and he just can't figure it out. This is the first time we've seen Sherlock baffled, even perhaps more so baffled because he was able to get leads when it came to tracking down and pinning William. I got a lot of slack. People were like, no, he hasn't figured it out. You're wrong. Sticking by my guns. Sherlock definitely worked out, and he has got his eye fixed on Will. He's definitely got his suspicions about that. And you can go and check out those videos for my logic. There's a lot of Cinderella links this time, where I think Irene calls herself Cinderella and she refers to Miss Hudson as one of the evil stepsisters. This time round, we actually get to see that kind of scene playing out, where we get some bullying going on, and it's right by the Thames. Kate has her back turned to the Thames. She's totally going to end up in the drink. Oh look, she did. I called it. But kudos for them to give us some correct information that the Thames was nothing more than a sewage canal at that period of time. There have been many reports done during the time periods and looking back that the Thames was actually so toxic that a swim in the Thames probably would kill you off, especially if it was during a period where we haven't got modern medicine quite yet to actually combat the waterborne diseases that water was carrying. I would have been quite concerned that Kate's probably going to end up with diseases a bit later down the line. That long in the Thames itself, probably going to have some nice tuberculosis setting in. Thankfully, nowadays, the Thames is a lot more healthier. There was a lot of efforts made to clean up the Thames, make it a cleaner place. I believe we are starting to get some return of life to the Thames itself. There are some fish in there now. But at the same time, I really do not recommend drinking from the Thames ever. Irene goes to the rescue, and then we get our nice inspirational speech to Kate. It's a very beautiful moment because it's very beautifully lit. She literally lights up our stage, lights up the stage for Sherlock as well, inspiring both Kate and Sherlock. Sherlock giving me a complete heart attack as he ends up topless. The ponytail, now he's topless. Lewis, I swear to God, I am just looking. Sherlock is beat. He really can't figure out Irene. And he's also not remembering Mycroft's warning. Albert bumps Irene in the street, which is absolutely fantastic. I love this moment because the green filter follows. We'll talk about it at the end, but all of the Moriarty brothers have been given a colour, and we're definitely seeing them putting out those colours this season. And Albert's colour is green. Really like it. Good choice for him as well because it goes with his eyes. He lets her know that he is there by actually going, I'm sorry, Miss Adler, dropping her name right there and then. And he drops off a very nice letter from, presumably, William. We don't know the contents of the letter. She doesn't open it for us, but that is the end of the sequence for us. Let's talk about the ED, because the ED's got some very hidden messages. I was able to pick this one up. I am so proud of myself for picking this up as well. Yes, it is the same artist, Omega by Stereo Drive Foundation. They are the same artist as before. Absolutely love the fact that we're keeping the same artist. Because it has the same beat, I even mentioned a few times. It's got the same kind of beat, the breakdown that the ending of season 1 had. So we start with William falling down into the depths. He is heading towards the darker, deeper parts of the ocean. The deeper you go, the less light reaches you, which can be a take on the fact that he is falling further and further into the darkness with what his mission, with his plan of what he's trying to do. And the light is no longer reaching him, but he still tries to reach out for the light. The idea that perhaps he still wants to be saved and he still wants to reach for something brighter, that brighter future that he hopes to deliver to London. It is the same beat as season 1's ED. We see a overlooked William with St. Paul's right behind him. St. Paul's is becoming quite iconic when it comes to William because his initial appearance in the OP for season 1, he was falling down outside of St. Paul's. Initially, I brushed it up and drew it up to the fact that St. Paul's is very, very iconic. And I chalked it up to essentially them putting in some nice British scenery. However, I'm starting to feel because they've reused it once again, I think it might be foreshadowing. Lewis gets a nice colour pop, so does Albert, showing us those two. But we start to be introduced to the colours. Albert gets a green. Green is a colour that can be associated with money because he is the wealthier. He's the one who had the money essentially at the start. It can be to nature and a calm personality. Albert often being shown as quite calm. But it can also be negativity-wise. It can be envy and it can be jealousy. Going to be interested to see if any of those show up for Albert. Lewis gets a blue. I absolutely love the fact they've given him blue. Blue is cold. It's isolated. Sad colour, very sad, attached colour. Lewis, often enough, comes across as pretty cold. He's pretty abashed to most people he meets. He hasn't had a great deal of screen time. And Will gets red. So red is danger, it's passion, it's also anger and rage. A fantastic colour to go with him because he's very, very dangerous and he's very passionate about trying to achieve his goals. But his goals obviously come at the expense of killing people. So that is also highlighting the colour for blood as well. We start to see some iconology with some crows. Crows also made an appearance in the OP for the season 1. We also see some red apples. Very interesting about these two choices. The crows are a very highly intelligent bird. Whether they're crows or ravens, I can't quite tell. I think someone will definitely tell me in the comments for sure. Both of those birds are very, very smart. The apple also made an appearance within the first OP as well. And an apple in religion as well that is seen as is the fruit of knowledge that should never be touched. It's forbidden. Both of the things that we're seeing are both linked to the idea of knowledge. Crows end up flying away, that freedom, so they can go wherever they please, the idea of being free. The sky then changes, the season then changes to perhaps the most important part, the hidden message. Will standing with white daffodils all around him. What do white daffodils mean? Well, white daffodils are a sign of purity, but they are also a desire to be transformed. This desire to be transformed, the idea of moving away from vanity, moving away from selfishness, Will is trying to transform the world around him. He's trying to rid the world of selfishness and trying to rid the world of vain aristocrats. The idea of the fact that this one flower is telling us that Will wants to be transformed, he wants to transform, is a fantastic message that is really, really well hidden. You really have to know your plants to actually know that the white daffodil means this. Give that creative team a pat on the back. Give them a medal for putting that message hidden in straight view in the picture. Albert has always been associated with the red rose. We've seen it quite a few times. They are using the repeat flower with him. The red rose is a sign of true love. It is passion. But within this sequence as well, the thing I'm more interested in is the fact that he is shown caged. Albert is shown behind a meshed window. Seen a few of these in different animes from the last season as well. A lot of mesh windows being shown. The character is behind it. He feels trapped by the system that he is within. Note that the red flower is the opposite side of the glass to him. Lewis gets the yellow daffodil, so great to see that both the Moriarty twins have got the daffodil representing them. But the colour, it means a lot of different things. So the white means something completely different from the yellow. And Lewis is also standing in ruins. The yellow daffodil means new beginnings, rebirth, positivity, life affirming, and it's also strong, resilient flower. Lewis was reborn during the Great Fire. He is also a very strong and resilient character. During that fire, the place where he is standing, those ruins, that is where he essentially had his life affirmed for him. So very fantastic choices on colours and flowers. All of the characters end up looking up at the sky as the birds are flying overhead because there are three birds. There are three main characters here who all long to be free. They long to be like the birds, and it's a fantastic mirroring of what's going on. I love the fact that the ED as well just focuses in on the Moriartys. Same thing happened with the ED for the season 1. It was all just focused on the Moriartys. Initially, the first one was them in the ruins painting, trying to create a prettier world. We had a bit of foreshadowing by seeing the falls. Actually, we do kind of have foreshadowing this again. We have Will literally falling down into water. And I made the Reichenbach Falls connection back in season 1. Perhaps this is a bit more literal. He is literally in the falls right now, so perhaps I can be cheeky and draw that connection right there. Let's now go straight into the 2 breakdowns I promised you guys. First things first, let's start with Mycroft. Mycroft's hair is the same colour as our boys. He has navy hair. Navy is the colour of power. It's the colour of importance. Often not most uniforms are navy. It is the idea of authority. Mycroft holds that authority important role of being a government official, having a government role. His hair is a lot more controlled than his brother's. Appearance needs to be more well kept. When you are in a position of power, your appearance is everything because people look up to you. So we know that he's a man of his appearance because of his work. So he looks a bit more controlled than his brother. The Gray Overcoat, I'm going to break down this version. So if he ends up having a change of outfit at some point, I can talk about it then. But the Gray Overcoat. Grey is a colour of neutrality and balance, of which his position is supposed to hold. So being a government official like he is, he's supposed to be neutral. He's supposed to show balance. It has these negative connotations attached to it of being depression and the idea of loss. Don't know if that's going to come up at any point. Perhaps it might just be a case that they've chosen grey mainly for the idea of neutrality and balance. The dark suit that he wears, doubling down on the fact that he has to be smart, he has to be formal. Appearances are everything. To be fair, Sherlock also wears the smart casual look as well. He has got some blue cufflinks. I'm using his character sheet now. I missed the cufflinks in the anime itself. He has blue cufflinks. Blue is a colour of calculating, of being calm. It can be a very cold, quite isolated character because we've mentioned this already with Lewis. It's a very sad colour as well, but it also shows a smart intellect as well. The cane is just topping off the fantastic look that we've got going for us. Top hat has got a dark purple band on it. Purple is a mysterious colour. It shows power once again, showing us the idea of royalty, the royal connection to the Queen, and ambition. Really like Mycroft's breakdown. There's not a lot to go with. Essentially, it's just breaking down what he mainly looks like. His eyes as well are also navy, doubling down on the idea that this character has a lot of power associated with him. Really like his look. Irene Adler is a little bit harder to pick at because she wears multiple outfits this episode. But we're going to go with the main outfit, the main artwork for her. So this one here, so I'll put it on the screen for you guys as well. She has blonde, long, wavy hair, worn up. But this is mainly due to the time period we're in. Often enough, women would put their hairs up. She essentially needs to look very neat and presentable, and her appearance is everything. A woman's appearance at this period of time is really all she has to show off. The blonde hair as well. Mainly characters who have blonde hairs, especially when it comes to anime, they are generally seen as fearless. Often the Western character, the character who is from the West, is shown by a blonde hair. Blonde is also a colour of beauty. Princess and royalty, we've got those links. And it can be a sign that the character can be quite sensitive. If she has got a sensitive side, we're not really going to see it too much because she's trying to come across as very fearless and she's playing a game. The blue eyes, calm, cold, confident. She's an ex-actress. She's very, very clever as well, to the brim of confidence. It can show sadness and a bit of sorrow and the idea of isolation as those negative connotations. Bearing in mind, even if I am picking out these negatives and you don't think they fit, I'm just telling you the negatives to the colour that can be associated with a colour. The clothing. So the clothing is top range. It's generally at the very top and newest clothing for the period as well. She wears multiple different colour outfits. The one I really like is her white and blue outfit. The one which I can pick on very quickly is the purple outfit. Purple being a colour of noble, power, being royalty. It's ambition as well, and it's mysterious, and that is exactly her. She's coming across as very mysterious right now. We have no information on her. We've got some information on what Mycroft has given Albert. Everything that Sherlock knows about Irene is wrong. But that is why she's fascinating as a character. It's very mysterious. The colours that seem to be associated often with her are purple, blue and white. Blue, that cold, calm, detached, almost sadness as well, with calculating colours. White can be a colour of innocence, but it can also be cold and it can be quite pure. But mainly here, perhaps even drawing in that those more colder elements as well to the character. So those are our breakdowns. I will probably add to those characters as we go through, as the character starts to develop on screen with us, as we learn a bit more about them. But those are our breakdowns for the main characters as well. This is our first episode and it's a fantastic hello back, welcome to London again. Welcome back to our storylines, a great touch base, and we're jumping straight into a big mystery that was set up for us at the end of the end season. Seeing Mycroft finally in play as well, fantastic, because we're going to start developing the relationship hopefully between those two, because it's always a relationship that you see, depending on what version of Sherlock you watch. Sometimes they have them as being quite hating one another. They can be quite antagonistic. But at the same time, there's been quite a few versions where the two have a bit more of a light-hearted, jokey relationship. It doesn't feel hostile, the relationship between them. Even though, yes, he did kind of shoot him in the face, that's what they've grown up to be like. They've tried 673 times. It's not just a one-off. That is just how their relationship is. It allows them to stay on the ball. It allows them to train and stay sharp. Fun. I think it feels like quite a fun relationship that we should get building. Hopefully as well this season we're going to see the bonds between Watson and Sherlock building. We're going to get some more information on the Moriarty gang, because there's quite a few characters there that I want backgrounds on that we haven't quite had yet, because a few people said that initially stuff was skipped from season 1. I have a feeling Albert's going to have an important role to play this season. I'm really excited for this season. I'm so happy it's back. I don't miss writing a lot though. I've gone from a season where all my animes were max 4 pages. I didn't have to go above 4 pages most of the time. And this first script is 5 pages long and it's going to be so much editing to do. And I'm actually recording in chunks at the moment because my voice hurts. The game is back, the game is afoot. It's time to have some high-level interchange going on with our two main characters and all of the characters in between as well. So cannot wait to see where season 2 takes us. Really excited, cannot wait. I hope you guys are looking after yourselves. I am so happy. If you are returning as well, say hi in the comments. Make sure you say hi that you're back, because I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. So I will see you guys next week for another episode of Moriarty the Patriot. Also check out my other animes, because I might get to see you twice a week. So goodbye guys, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Bye bye.